Hello, my movie peeps. I just got done watching Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and with this latest and what is said to be the final installment of Indiana Jones, we follow Dr. Henry Jones put onto an adventure to find an artifact he has a connection to from his past, and trying to ensure this artifact does not end up in the wrong hands. That's all pretty much say. Like any spoilers to you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. I am going to do a spoiler review once this movie is released, because there are a lot of things I want to get specifically into about this movie, and I'm not going to be able to do that here in the spoiler-free review, so stay tuned on the channel for that. But jumping into it here, Indiana Jones. I, like many people out there, were introduced to Indiana Jones through my father. It's just a standard thing fathers have to do with their sons. They have to teach them how to ride a bike, they have to yell at them for holding the flashlight wrong, and you show them Rocky, Terminator, and Indiana Jones. Those are just requirements. It's written in the Bible or something. And man, I couldn't be more thankful to grow up watching Indiana Jones movies, because Indiana Jones is one of the coolest characters ever put on the silver screen. The action-packed fun adventure you have that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were able to put together is something I doubt we'll maybe ever see again. And just to kind of give you a further feel on where I stand with Indiana Jones movies, my personal favorite is Temple of Doom. And that might seem like a kind of a controversial one, but rewatching the films again in preparation for this new one, Temple of Doom was just the one that really spoke to me out of the original three. Then of course there's the dark horse of the family, Crystal Skull, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a Crystal Skull hater. That movie came out when I was 12, 13. I saw it pretty young. It was my first Indiana Jones movie in an actual movie theater. I liked it, but I am totally aware, especially rewatching it now, why some fans of Indiana Jones treated it like the end of the franchise, the death of all things, enough to where Steven Spielberg didn't even want to come back to direct this one, man. You hurt his feelings. But although that did shock me, I thought James Mangold would be a perfect replacement here. He's someone that really hasn't steered me wrong in cinema. I love what he did with Logan, Ford v Ferrari. I thought is a fantastic movie. If anybody was going to replace Steven Spielberg, which is a tough task to do, I thought James Mangold would be someone that could live up to that. So now that you know where I stand with Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, I was really wanting this to be the big, giant, spectacular finale for one of my favorite movie characters. And there is a part of me, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that is a bit disappointed here. Now, I'm definitely going to dive into the things that I thought were holding this movie back, but I do want to make it clear, this isn't a terrible film. Just like with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I don't think that is a terrible, horrendous movie. I think it is just a fine Indiana Jones film with a lot of flaws. And that's kind of exactly how I feel about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's a perfectly fine adventure with Indiana Jones in it. I mean, seeing Harrison Ford go on an adventure, do some action, throw nuggets of wisdom to characters on screen, smile, have that little Indiana Jones persona just come out of him is never gonna get boring to me, okay? I don't care how old this man gets, seeing him in that fedora, jacket, and whip is always gonna bring immense joy to me. And so for the most part, this movie, Dial of Destiny, will deliver on an Indiana Jones adventure, but it really just isn't that grand, big, epic finale you'd hope it'd be for Indy. Diving more specifically into the things I really did enjoy about it is, for one, the opening sequence here. So the first 20-15 minutes of the movie is de-aged Harrison Ford. It's bringing him back to what we kind of remember Indiana Jones for being: very spry, very athletic, in your face, punching Nazis left and right. That part of the movie was such a fun trip to see. I don't know if they could have really have done an entire movie like that, because although I think the de-aging on it looked pretty damn good, probably the best I've seen in any big budget Hollywood movie, it's still just not a perfected art. Sometimes the mouthing does not match the words, the expression on the face just can't quite capture those Indiana Jones expressions. But I felt like in these moments, James Mangold did a good job of capturing what Steven Spielberg probably would have done with today's modern technology in an Indiana Jones movie. I touched on this already a little bit here, but Harrison Ford still has it in him, man. Of course, with his age, there are limitations to what this Indiana Jones is gonna be able to do once we see him in his present day. And although maybe some stuff you do have to stretch your imagination, it never felt to me like they went levels of ridiculousness and we're seeing an old Indiana Jones do backflip somersaults, jump building to building, or anything like that. I felt like they kept it within reason of what this Indiana Jones was capable of with his current age. John Williams scoring the movie and the music thrown in here also just helps bring everything back together. The performances all around were really good. While I'll have some different different things to say about the characterizations of some of these characters. Acting-wise, Phoebe Waller was fantastic. Mads Mikkelsen delivered as the villain. And I'm also going to end up being someone who I think is going to end up being a giant defender of the third act of this movie, because if you've stuck around with the Indiana Jones franchise, you know what they're usually chasing after, this artifact thing, always has some sort of supernatural or magical-like abilities. Whether you're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, the stone in the second movie, the Holy Grail that grants eternal life, some interdimensional space beings, Dial of Destiny is no different, and some can probably pretty much imply what the artifact can do, and I think while some people will think of it as jumping the shark or going a little too far, or this doesn't fit into Indiana Jones, I loved what they did with the artifact. I thought it actually worked really well. It created some really heartwarming, beautiful scenes for the character of Indy. But I could definitely see, just like with the ending of Crystal Skull, people going, really, we're bringing spaceships now into these adventures? Oh, how crazy. This to me didn't feel that crazy. It felt like, all right, we've already jumped the shark in the last movie. This is pretty much just a Tuesday now. So really, those are the things I most enjoyed about Dial of Destiny that really brought me to more of the positive side than negative. So I guess now diving into those specific negatives here, I really hate to say it, but I think the partnering relationship that Indiana Jones had here with Phoebe Waller's character of Helena is probably my least favorite partnership of all the Indiana Jones movies. And that really sucks to say, because the movie sets up what could be something like really beautiful and profound for Indy, because they've made it clear in some of the trailers, and they explain it very early on in the movie. This is Indiana Jones's goddaughter. He's known this little girl all her life. Indy has a sentimental, cute name for her, calls her Wombat, and unfortunately for like the majority of their partnership together, 60-70% of it, they are just bickering, angry, annoyed with each other. I think this was such an odd choice for the final film of Indiana Jones to have his last big adventure be paired up with someone who is constantly being rude to him, being disrespectful, being mean to him, essentially turning the whole film into, you're old, I'm not. Come on, man, you cranky old fart. Let's get out of here. And funny enough, that's almost like a theme played into this movie about getting old, aging out, and no longer being respected by the world around you. Both Indiana Jones and Mads Mikkelsen share that theme, so it's something explored in this movie. Mads Mikkelsen was a Nazi working under Hitler, and he felt underappreciated by Hitler. And now Indiana Jones was this big, giant adventurer, and he's being underappreciated and disrespected by his goddaughter. And it's like, okay, but like, why do you think I want to see the last Indiana Jones movie be a depressive, sad state of my old favorite action hero? Like, I know it's unrealistic to think we're all gonna age so gracefully and we're gonna look great in our 80s, 70s and be able to do all types of things, but when it goes to the point of almost setting back everything awesome you've built up with Indy just to turn him into eventually the cranky old man in his boxers holding a bat telling someone to turn the music down, an actual scene in this movie, I'm just like, this is not how I want my hero's last big journey to go. The other thing I felt was lacking in here was some of the action sequences. Now, I'm not saying there's not action in this film. There's actually plenty of it, and a lot of the action sequences go on for a pretty long time, but they feel so empty and like there actually isn't any stakes involved in it. That's where one of the things I thought wasn't going to be an issue in this movie turned out to be kind of a major problem, and that's the lack of Steven Spielberg in here. I don't know why this is like surprising for me to say out loud, but oh man, Steven, I kind of wish you did return for it here, because Steven Spielberg did have such an eye for how to film Indiana Jones, how to make those action scenes feel like characters were in danger, even if they were doing things as ridiculous as swinging on vines with monkeys, having old man Indy go from a motorcycle to a car. Steven Spielberg definitely knew how to make the Indiana Jones action feel unique and catered to Indiana Jones, where a lot of these scenes feel like something you'd maybe watch in a generic action movie. And it's not even just the action scenes, it's just the way the movie is shot. It's lacking that Steven Spielberg eye that he would give to Indiana Jones film. Shots where like Indy's shadow paves up against the wall and he puts his hat on, or these amazing transition scenes we would go from like a young Indy to an adult Indy. Even the humor in here just didn't land with me as much. Stuff like the sight gags we would get where Indy thinks he's about to get away when he really just locked himself inside the enemy's plane, or they think they're helping someone escape but they just put them inside the enemy's car. It's little things like that that that'll make this feel lacking as an Indiana Jones film and more just like a movie created by a bunch of studio heads instead of someone who has a passion for the character of Indiana Jones. And again, a lot of these complaints and things that were rubbing me the wrong way were mainly happening in the second act of the movie. The first act is great. Second act, oh my goodness, I thought I was going to end up disliking this more than Crystal Skull, but to me, the third act came around and saved it. The relationship between Helena and Indiana Jones gets much better. Character starts to redeem herself a little bit. The artifact starts to get revealed. They throw in something kind of crazy that I was actually loving, and then we get to the ending of the movie and it just didn't have that emotional heart punch I wanted. There was definitely some emotional things in that ending where I was like, I love this. This is great for Indy. This is so nice. But even then, it just felt flat. It felt like there was a better ending to Indiana Jones in Crystal Skull or in the movie before that, Last Crusades. But again, I'm totally aware. This is me just speaking as a diehard fan, wanting the absolute best for one of my favorite movie characters out there. It's still a fine film. It's good. It's all right. I just didn't want all right okay for the last big movie, you know? So for Indiana Jones The Dial of Destiny, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. While there's plenty of action to go around in this film, a lot of it just feels so generic compared to past Indiana Jones films. The best stuff you're gonna get is from that first 20 minutes. From there, tame expectations on the rest of the action scenes. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. A lot of the humor in here wasn't landing for me. Of course, I'll always get a chuckle when Indiana Jones says something smug or wisecracking, but the humor was hit and miss for me. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. It's a fine enough adventure story in here. The artifact to me is really interesting. What they do with the artifact, I also was really much a fan of. When the story was focusing on the theme of getting old and refinding your purpose in life, I thought is when it was working best. When it was taking away is when the supporting characters and cast were treating Indiana Jones like an old fart, disrespecting him for a majority of the film, making it not so fun to see. Horror in the movie, I'll give half a star too. Sure, you have your creepy crawly centipede bugs that show up during the tomb or the appearance of a dead body here and there, but as far as you go back to the other Indiana Jones movies, they've had a lot more scary scenes with some good practical effects done with melting faces or people drinking blood, hearts being ripped out of chests. As far as the horror elements go in Indiana Jones movie, this was extremely tame. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I wish I could say for a lot of the sequences I was on the edge of my seat wondering, oh my god, is Indy gonna make it? Is this gonna happen? Are the bad guys gonna win? What's going on? Because a lot of the action and story elements are sort of generic. You kind of see where things are headed. Casual fans into the Indiana Jones world, I'm gonna say B-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a C+. And critically, I'm going to give it a B-. So for Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, there is enough good in here that outweighs the bad. It's not the extraordinary epic finale you might have been hoping for, but it's still worth watching in theaters. Again, that's just my opinion on Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. I wanted to walk out loving this movie. I came out just liking it, thinking it was fine. When the movie's officially released, I will definitely be ranting off more specifically on things that rub me the wrong way, but also gushing about the things I thought saved this movie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.